So again, using the frame or the lens of yin and yang,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to like totally be bashing yang, because yang, that doing
We need it.
modality, does get things done and we need it.
Mm-hmm.
And my approach and my values are about harmonizing the yin and the yang.
Yes.
And my understanding about each of our soul purposes, each person's soul purpose in this multifaceted way, is that there are yang facets of soul purpose, of a person's soul purpose, and yin facets. Some people might lean more in toward one than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's not about, it's not, again, it's not black and white. It's not either or. Either you're a yang kind of soul purpose, or you have a very, or you have a totally yin kind of soul purpose. But what are the facets, the aspects of your soul purpose? That some of them are yang and some of them are yin,
Yes.
and that one doesn't have more value than the other. And also that throughout our lives, that harmony or that balance of yin and yang, or the balance of which aspects or which parts of our multifaceted soul purpose really are being activated at different times in our life. So there's one client I think about who, in her younger years, she was a scientist and she had a really, brilliant mind, and she did great work, in the lab. And I truly think that was part of her soul purpose, was to do that very scientific work. And it was in a very male dominated situation,
Mm-hmm.
and in a male dominated time in our culture. And oh my gosh, she got into huge trouble that was related to harassment and all this kind of stuff, which I'm not going to go into that. But I feel like her work as a scientist was young, and it was in a male dominated kind of a context, and it was truly part of her soul purpose.
Yes.
And now she's in her wisdom years, and she really struggles a lot with chronic illnesses, doesn't have a lot of physical energy, and is living in a like a retirement situation. And she was really troubled by feeling like she's not out there in the world, and she's not doing, she's not doing something, and she feels like she should be doing something.
Yeah.
And doing something productive, and it was very, very painful for her. And for me, looking at her astrology, which is how I understand the way I see someone's multifaceted, multidimensional soul purpose, what I was seeing is that she has a very strong soul purpose to give and receive compassion, which is very yin.
Very, very
And
needed.
no, she's not going to make money being a compassionate person living in her retirement community. And it's not about the money. And it's not even about, she doesn't need to, go around and be like the do-gooder in her retirement, community. And it could be just, sitting in her own apartment and doing metta practice, doing a loving kindness practice. And also being loving and kind and compassionate toward herself.
Yes.
And allowing other people to express compassion towards her. And I don't want people to misunderstand what I'm saying and say that, oh, well, then she's just here to be completely yin. But I do think that it can shift, that balance of yin and yang can shift in different phases of our lives. And at this phase of her life, it is very much about the yin for her. And for her to be able to accept that and to value, not just accept and be like, okay, I've got to be resigned to this, being a compassionate person, but to see the value of that, especially in these times that we're in. I mean, this world, humanity needs so much compassion.
Absolutely. It's such an important asset to bringing more peace into the fear body of our collective.
Yes.
And sounds like she doesn't need to make money right now in her
No,
life, so
no.
she can really dive into this
Yes.
aspect of her soul purpose, which is interesting what you were just saying, because I think it resonates what you're saying, you know, of like with the yin and the yang, sometimes things are more internal, sometimes things are more external. And I think about, and I'm still working this as I build the second business of, and I'm not saying this is actually the right way, I'm still learning, but I'm finding that my mind is very quick to go to the yang, to the structure and the figuring out like how I'm going to do things. And then it will create a lot of anxiety for me because it's faster than what's actually manifesting, or it's faster what is like what my business is ready for, or even that I'm ready for. And so I think I've had to be in this journey of integrating the yin. So coming back into my meditation, listening, like, okay, so what is it? What is the next movement to be touching the people that I want to touch and opening the doors that I want to open? And I have found that often what my mind thinks I should do, or the more kind of forcing something to happen energy, is actually the last thing that's needed. What needs to happen is something inside of me first, and then it just becomes clear. Like the yang becomes clear of how that action wants to manifest. But I often have to do more internal listening to get there, because I'm not following a prescriptive marketing plan. I'm doing it in this very unconventional kind of kooky way, where, I mean, kooky to my conditioned mind, where it's like, I'm just listening. And can I trust that? Can I trust that I will be taken care of and that life will show me the path? And that feels edgy. That's the harmonizing I think you're talking about, at least my version of how I'm, shuffling my way through.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of different ways to think about how they balance or how they harmonize. That's like in a moment to moment way. I feel like you're really addressing that moment to moment way of balancing and harmonizing the yin and the yang aspects of yourself and how you're moving through your life. And then there's another way to think about it is different aspects of our life. So there's like career aspect, and then there's home life or relationship life or spiritual life.
Absolutely.
And so I might be very young at times, like maybe in my career, or actually for me, like, I'm sometimes a very athletic kind of a hiker, meaning I don't just like to mosey along on the trail. It's like, I've got a goal. I'm going to get to the top of that 14er.
Yes.
And, and I'm very like, I am going for it. And that's what my day is about, is getting to the top of the 14er.
Yes.
And that's in my recreational aspect of my life. That's not my career. I'm not like a professional mountain climber. But in my spiritual life, oftentimes I'm sitting and I'm quiet and I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm working with my energy in a very, inwardly focused way. So there can be that aspect of how we balance and harmonize the yin and yang in our lives, is the different, like, I don't want to call them boxes or components, but because I think astrologically, I think about the different houses. I think about the houses in the chart.
Right. Of course.
And each of the houses in the astrology chart is a different realm or aspect of our lives.